Welcome to the show. My name is Lena Shipwata, and yes, I'm standing in for Nahed. Now, I actually thought I got to leave solving equations and finding X in high school, but my guest today said, nope, that's not the case. He is a poet, an actor, a creative director. What does he not do? Virtual claps for our guest for today. Please welcome on my couch, Solve X. Woo!
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you for the intro. Yeah. Wow, that's so beautiful.
I tried to make it to zhuzh it up a little bit for you, yeah.
Wow, okay.
How are you doing? How are you feeling today?
No, I'm fantastic.
Yeah.
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. How's the winter creeping in? How you feel? I hate winter so much. You don't understand.
You know, I always tell myself I prefer winter until
winter comes. And then you're like, and apart from the drip, yeah,
you know exactly.
And we live in a savannah, so our winters are like extreme. Yeah.
And I always like to say hot girl summer, cold boy winter again until winter comes.
And then you're freezing. Okay, I think I'll be doing everybody a disservice if I don't ask, how did the name Solve X come about?
Okay, I knew the question was going to come first.
Come on.
So my name is X. My father gave me the name X.
Like X?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't like to tell people why exactly.
Okay.
And also I've always felt myself, and from other people's perspectives, they've always seen me as this enigmatic, I don't want to say mysterious, but like not someone that you could easily put your finger to and, you know, kind of make out their personality by, let's say, first impression. So quite of a equation of a personality, I would say. And so I'm a writer, and if you indulge into most of my works that I've written, there's a sense of trying to come towards a certain answer, as you know, it's almost like you're doing an equation in your mind as you're reading, you know. So Solve X, I thought it would just make sense to come up with that.
Would you agree then that when people say there's power in somebody's name, is that exactly what your name is?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I love that. So your dad was he was trying to make you somebody that, you know, is intellectual, that thinks a lot, that thinks beyond, you know, the borders.
Yeah.
I love that for you. I love that for you. Now, I like to believe that every human being, no matter what job title you have, whatever position you are in, is somebody before their title. Before you are a poet, an actor, creative director, a writer, all of these things, you are somebody. Yeah. Who is that somebody? What are your likes, dislikes? What do you do for fun? All of these things, what makes Solve X?
Okay. Well, I'm a very weird boy.
I like that.
Yeah. My interests are just far-fetched, and I love reading Russian literature, for example. That's one. So
Russian literature?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
My favorite would be Dostoevsky.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always been a sports fanatic, but
okay, F1. I'm seeing the vibes. You know? I'm seeing the vibes.
But yeah, not anymore. Not really.
Okay.
I don't even follow sports anymore. Not really. My crown jewel, my heart is within the arts. Any creative medium. That's where I find solace. That's how I express myself. That is what I advocate for. I'm also very much into reading upon different kinds of religions and philosophies and stuff like that, just you know, out of interest sake. So yeah, that's Solve X in a
nutshell, just a little bit. Okay, that's interesting actually.
Yeah.
That's really nice to hear somebody else, another black human being that indulges in these creative arts. Okay, when and how did we start in the arts? What did we start with and how did we end up here?
Yeah. Again, I've never been the most open person, you know, in terms of talking to people, venting and opening up and all of that. So, but as a human, you have to take the tension off and lay it down somewhere.
Yeah, release.
You know, release it somewhere. So I found solace in music. It started there, just especially rap music.
Yeah.
Listen to a lot of rap music, learn the lines.
Who's your favorite?
J. Cole, all time.
Okay.
All time.
Okay.
But that one is a very competitive, because I think it has phases.
Okay.
You know? Yeah. So I started writing from, how do I say, trying to recreate the sounds of my favorite rappers and musicians and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So almost like writing as if I'm them in their style.
Okay.
But like songs, you know, just for never with any intention. Just I would write, scramble it, throw it away. That's where it all started. I had a cousin that listened to a lot of spoken word poetry, like Christian. So he had this thing of substituting gospel music for like spoken word poetry because he preferred, you know, it just, yeah. And then, so obviously I would have an ear for that as well. And I'll be like, this is nice. This, you write that and you can rap what that guy is saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was ready into, like, I was a huge hip hop junkie. So I started trying that as well. And so my first love, my first artistic bone was poetry. I started writing poetry. I started writing rap songs, which eventually I realized I'm not a rapper. I'm not a rapper.
It's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
I liked writing rap songs.
Maybe a ghostwriter then?
Yeah, maybe a ghostwriter, I would say. Something that I should really put my foot into eventually. But I'm not much of a rapper. I'm not much of a... I use my voice for other things.
Yeah.
Spoken word poetry rather. And, you know, that's where it started. And then one thing led to another. Poetry got me into... It was like a ripple effect.
Yes.
You know, me going into theater, me going into film, media, everything, it all started with poetry because, you know, I wanted that a place to, okay, sure, writing was my way of, you know, reflecting on myself, laying my burdens down, expressing my, you know, thoughts and stuff like that. But reciting it or performing it was a way of channeling, you know, my truths to someone else, to a listener. And once I started being on stages and stuff like that, I was like, ooh, I like this.
I like this feeling.
You know? I like this. And I want to do that in different spaces as well. So that is where my interest in like becoming an actor and stuff like that, that's where it all, you know, manifested from.
You know, I actually like that story. It's very similar to mine. In fact, almost copy and paste.
Really?
Yeah, I always tell people that I started off modeling and it was just one of those that I just, you know, took a chance on because I had an uncle. I grew up a tomboy. And my uncle...
Look at you.
Nobody would have, like, ask my family members, they would never guess I would be here today. But I grew up a tomboy and then my uncle was just like, you know, girl, you need to try this thing out. Try modeling. You're tall, dark-skinned, and all of that. So, and that time, Nokia Face of Africa was a big thing. So they really wanted to push me in that direction. So I was like, okay, let me try it out. Went to one casting, and that has been my life ever since. After modeling, opened up doors for MCing, presenting, everything. Really, you know, ripple effect.
That's how it's a ripple effect. And I think most people that have made way in the creative industry, in media industry in Namibia, it just starts off as something. And then you end up in something that you never imagined, you know, that it just comes as you go through the process.
100%.
Yeah.
Tell me about your theater side of things.
Yeah.
How is it different acting in a theater space than it is for film and stuff? Yeah.
Well, film is so weird because I struggle so much to get into, just to even be in a space like this where we're talking to a piece of a device on a camera, you know?
Okay.
That is the difference. That with theater, leaving the part, being a character, you are there, you know, you are talking to someone and it's continuous. And there's no cut, take two, recreate. Because with film, you have to recreate an emotion for different cuts.
Angles.
To, you know, and it requires a lot of techniques, a lot of, you know, and also film is more subtle because you capture everything. The way you're looking at, like, everything, every detail, you know, because you have all of these different close-up shots that captures how you're blinking. With theater, it's now you are there and you have to live the part. You cannot think of, okay, in the next shot, I'm going to try blinking. Because once the show starts,
you have one take and that's it.
You have one take and that's it. It runs through. You have to talk louder. It's more exaggerated. You know, it's not as subtle as film. Because film is more of a portrayal of like how people actually really, you know, do things in real life. With theater, it's a bit more exaggerated because I mean the person sitting at the back of the auditorium
needs to hear you as well.
So you need to
enunciate
and in real life people don't really
nobody speaks like that.
Ears and
but which one do you prefer out of the two?
I really want to indulge into film.
Okay.
Because
that's where the money resides.
That's where the money is. That's the fact that I love watching myself, you know. A play, you do the play and then you hear feedback. Oh, that was nice. I like the way you did that. And you can't replay or unless someone obviously took some kind of video. But a film, you know, you can watch yourself over and over again. And I know I would cringe because
I hate seeing or hearing myself.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
You know, even a voice note just...
like, why are you playing my voice note?
Yeah. But then sometimes when you're listening to the voice note, you're talking to a hand and you're like, ooh.
Oh, wow.
I'm a smooth guy. You know, that's the idea with film.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I want to watch myself and be like, wow, I really nailed that.
Yes.
You know? With theater, it's stop and run through and it's done and yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I prefer theater to answer your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we are going to indulge into film.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, perfect.
That's where the money is at.
And you performed at the Xpress Festival. What was the experience like? What was the performance about?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
It was actually my second time doing the IFAMS Festival. Last year I performed poetry, a spoken word poem, 2 of them.
Okay.
This year I did a poem and I co-wrote and directed and enacted a play with a very close friend of mine called Lady Nakuta.
Okay.
So the theme of the festival was the charm goes beyond what you see.
Okay.
So we wrote something that kind of explored the idea of a land, and the land was oriented around Windhoek and where everything, you know, when you're out in Independence Avenue, for example, you see all these beautiful people, these beautiful buildings, the diversity of people, you know, all of this, the hustle and bustle of the city, and most of us don't really stop to just reflect, like, the charm.
It was mountainous at some point. How did we get here? Yeah.
Hot springs and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like what the play was trying to explore, and it's something that I'm eternally grateful because it opened my eyes to a lot of things that you walk past every day. You know, buildings, because we had to do research. A lot of in-depth research. Yeah. Here's a fact. One.
I love it.
If I can share something.
Yes, please. We are learning every day. I love it.
So you know at Zoo Park, right?
Okay.
There's that playground.
Yes.
They found elephant bones there, like older than like 5,000 years.
Okay.
But then you see a monument with like an elephant skull, something like that. But that's not actually where they found it. They found it at the park, but then they only noticed that they found, I don't know, it's something. But then
they found it.
They made the playground and then they built the monument somewhere else, and then only realized later that no, where the playground is where the bones were found.
Where the bones were found.
So one child one day might be playing there and just come
oh my goodness. Who knows, you know?
And just researching what Zoo Park was like this, it was bigger than what it is now. It was like this luxurious play. It was actually a zoo. In fact, there were animals and stuff, like when during the colonial era. Okay. And it was this thing, man. It was
so that's where the name Zoo Park comes from.
And I go there. You know, I like vinyls and like
it's
cafes
right
that are there. You know,
opposite,
so I go there often. So and I never knew this. You know.
For us, when we were growing up, Zoo Park was really just that place you go with family. You know. And it's. It just brings back so many memories. Yeah, so you had to do like a lot of research around Windhoek and stuff.
So and that is what I want to start doing, to look around most of the times I've been writing from an internal place, what I feel, what I think. But I want to look around, you know. I want to look at Lena and write a poem about Lena.
Yes.
And, you know. So the things around me.
Okay. That's actually really nice. You see, you are very intense. It's in the name. I love it. Now let's talk Soul Xpress.
Yes.
How did we start this? You are also, I guess, in this regard, a event organizer or you know. So tell me about Soul Xpress. How often does it happen? When did it start? What sparked the idea?
Soul Xpress was a platform that I started because I wanted a platform for myself to perform, because there were not too many out there.
Perfect.
At the time, I started it about 2 years ago.
Okay.
So the idea was just non-profit event. Don't pay tickets to come and watch. I just wanted somewhere to express myself, and I gathered a lot of my creative friends and were like, I'm hosting an event and you guys are gonna perform, like it or not. And
support me.
You know. Come through, guys. And it was big. It was so big. The attendance, the people. It was so. I held it at what is that? A craft cafe at Grove Mall.
Okay.
And they were also new. They were like a new establishment at the time. And I think it was the first live event that they had. And the attendance was so packed.
Okay.
And it gave me that feeling of like, wow, okay, let me create something out of it. And then I started establishing it as like a brand.
Okay.
And I started trying to organize it. And what it is right now, and then I've had, I think, 2 more events after then.
Okay.
I've had a meditation session mixed with like poetry reading and vocalist singing. I had people like Gloria Del Mar and people like that come and perform at magicians. So there's always some kind of a theme that I try and tackle, and that the theme behind the meditation one, for example, was introspection. So the art, the poetry, the singing, even the magic had to somehow speak to the theme of like introspection, looking within thyself. And then the last event that I held, I had a panel talk. It was titled "Creating Tomorrow." It just spoke about, the future of the creative industry in Namibia, the impacts of things like AI and digital. How do you use digital platforms to grow yourself as an artist? I had people like Aina Raiza Kweyo and Jemima Debele and Philemon Dong. So I had panelists and then the performances, of course.
Yes.
That kind of also spoke to the theme. So that's like the one segment of Soul Express and how it became a thing. I'm busy trying to establish different branches of it to create some collective creative community.
Okay.
I recently opened up a photography and videography service provision type of thing. The ultimate goal for Soul Express is to have branches in most creative industries. So at one point I want to do what record labels does. We have musicians signed to Soul Express. We represent them. We create content, videography. We give services. We
have content creators on there as well.
Yeah, I myself, I'm still in my infancy as a content creator.
But you are.
One day I'll have someone like yourself.
Call me up.
You know what I mean? It's the marketing manager, director, something.
Let's take Soul Express to the next level.
So I have very big goals for Soul Express, and it has really been a blessing, putting it together and seeing how far it has come. And most times I've done it out of my own. All the events that I've had, I've never charged people to pay. It has always been. I
was actually going to ask you about that.
Yeah, it has never been to make money out of it. I don't know.
I hear you, but like.
Yeah, it was not very sustainable. It was not very.
Exactly, like in this industry, how are you eating?
Yeah.
Without charging even like an entrance fee and stuff like that, because how are you growing at the end of the day if you don't sort of like make financial growth from it?
Yeah, I get you. And that is the advice that I always like to give artists, especially.
Yes, please.
A lot of artists have this thing of like, I want to start, but I don't have
money,
the resources. I don't have money.
Yeah.
So what I did, right? By this time I was a poet. I'm
known.
getting gigs. I'm doing stuff, and also I think when I worked in a restaurant as a waiter at the time as well. And I was a student. I am a student at UNAM.
Yeah.
So all of these things, I used what I had at my disposal. So if I know a friend that's a photographer, brah, you're coming to photograph my event. If like the place, the craft cafe, the restaurant where I held my first event, they were new. So I didn't have to pay like venue fee and whatever because it was
you were
good marketing,
basically,
So it's about utilizing what you have.
Yes.
So I never had to spend too much money.
So your network is important.
Networking, build ground root relationships with people and with places, and start with your phone if you want to be a content creator.
I'm a YouTuber and I use my phone.
Exactly. So and that was kind of how Soul Express manifested into stuff. So people always think, wow, that event was so big. How much did you? Like, what did you make out of it? You don't have sponsors, but like, trust me, everything was just really free. I took out like $500 maybe for a bit of deco and a bit of this and that. But obviously, it wasn't something that it was just a way to create something, but
also
now,
create a brand and have people trust your brand.
Exactly.
So the next time you do say go back to Craft Cafe or to wherever, you can also show the success of your events.
Exactly.
And other brands and companies are able to trust you and
see that I can put something together, you know?
And invest in you for the future as well.
Exactly.
But so far, how has your experience been in the creative industry? Have people welcomed you? Have you made enough friends? Have the companies? What's your experience like?
I feel like I'm still a baby.
Okay.
You know, but I'm learning and I'm growing. And every especially this year, I've been having so many opportunities and
we're only in the first quarter, a little bit over it, but
you know, but it's and I've been noticing things from now. I'm in the creative, I'm part of the industry, you know. So now I'm starting to notice things as I meet people, as I you know, do things, you know. I'm starting to notice things, and I recently did a talk, a bit off topic. I recently did a talk at NAST, and they asked me to do something about what is the, how do I put this? The creative industry, what economic benefits can it have for Namibia, for example?
Great question, actually. Yeah. How did you answer that?
So I did so much research. Just quick recap of one figure that I got. A lot of people have this idea that Namibia is too small to rely on the creative industry alone, you know? And I just did some research, like Nigeria, for example. If Nigeria has 236 million people or something like that, we have 3 million people. So one person in Namibia would equal 79 people in Nigeria. So if I have to hold a show and charge $20 and I have 100 people, that would make me about $2,000. In Nigeria, those 79 people would be 7,900 people. With that same amount of, if you charge $20 in Nigeria, you'd make 158 million people. So population does matter. But then also my research went further and I looked at places like New Zealand. Iceland has world-renowned music, but it has a population smaller than Windhoek. Because what do they look for? How do they come about? It's infrastructure, it's investment, it's, you know, it's being recognized by your government, the policies, things like that, you know. They just support and give more, you know, respect and resources and chances for creatives. Because you can create an economy, economic infrastructure out of it. And that's why, getting back to my experience in the creative industry, it's very fragmented. There's too many groupies. People don't want to work together. Of course, it's a capitalistic state. It's competitive, whatever. But we're not as big as other places to try, and you know, we need to find. And
our own industry will only grow once we collaborate.
And you know, share things and. That is also where this idea of Soul Xpress came from. The idea of merging, coming together, different people, different artists, different creatives, and sharing things to create something. And that was really proof of, you know what I'm saying. So yeah.
Do you have more Soul Xpress events coming up about?
Yes. We're actually. I don't want to. Okay, I'm not going to spoil it.
Yes.
But just wink, wink. Poetry festival. Wink, wink, Jemima.
You heard it here first. So so it's a poetry festival.
I'm not.
One of its kind. It's the first, actually. No. Have we ever had?
It will be the first.
Yeah.
It will be the first. But we're still planning it, so I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. And I'm working with a very close friend of mine. She's a very well-established poetess herself, Jemima Debele. She runs a poetry platform called Jiggy Jamboree. So it'll be a Soul Xpress Jiggy Jamboree thing. But again, I don't want to count my eggs before they hatch. So, but keep out. Follow me on Instagram. Keep out. Follow Jemima. Follow everyone. And keep your eyes out for.
I love where Soul Xpress is headed to. Now, you work in the creative industry. Do you also study? What are you studying? I
am a student at UNAM. I am a media student, specialized in public relations and advertising. I had a few drama courses at one point as well. That's also kind of how I broke into the theater industry.
If I remember, the drama course is acting and
voice. So I had those.
Yes,
modules.
I also studied at UNAM.
Oh, you were there?
Media studies.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I have a degree, my dear.
Wow. So
I just don't use it.
So you should be my role model. You did what I'm okay.
Yes, so I studied media studies at UNAM as well. So you were on the right track. I'm so proud of you.
Right. Okay.
But what's your experience like now at school?
I want to finish.
What year are you in?
I'm in my 3rd year now.
Okay, you're almost there.
I'm almost there.
Almost there.
But this idea, UNAM is very difficult to get into.
Yeah.
But it's also difficult to leave.
100%, 100%.
Yeah, no.
But I think you should finish what you started.
Yeah, definitely.
And you also most definitely have people looking up to you. So you just want to, lead.
Set an example.
Set an example. Yeah. Now, on the topic of people looking up to you, if there's anybody watching that feels they want to enter the career path you are in, what advice would you give them? And just encourage them. I believe in impact and motivating people. Yeah. So please impact somebody that's watching.
No one is coming to save you. No one is going to take your hand and turn you into a star. You have to start. That's what I always just start with whatever you have, wherever you are. Just start, do something, pull out your phone, borrow someone's phone if you don't have a phone, if you want to shoot a film or something, but just start. That's just, I know it's like overused advice, but people don't really understand, how do I start?
Yeah.
But honestly, that's like the best advice.
Get out of your house, make a friend or two. If I remember well, there was a year Lioness shot a whole music video with her phone.
Exactly.
In order for me to have been at UNAM, I got up that day and I just so happened to find a space. I had my points, everything was like on point, but I had just not applied. So I went there and it just so happens that they had an extra space. But had I not left my house, I would have not been a graduate today. Go to that casting. Even if you are scared, just start.
Because if you really want to do something, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, 100%.
And putting yourself in... It's like the equivalent of walking into the forest, knowing that on the other side of the dark forest is where the gold is.
Yes.
But you have to walk, you have to just go. You don't have a flashlight, maybe one will find. Just to give a crazy parable, but analogy, but just start.
Thank you so much for joining us on the couch today.
Thank you. This is a nice couch.
It was lovely having you.
Yeah.
I wish you well in all your endeavors. And maybe you will come back after a few episodes and just tell us where we're at and, give us an update.
Definitely.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. I don't know if this is my first and last time on this channel, but if it is, my name is Lena Shipota once again. Like Nahens always say, we'll be right back. Mwah.
Bye.